Hey there, today we are pulling back the curtain on the invisible journey that pretty much every single thing you own takes to get to you. It's called supply chain management, and honestly, it's the secret story behind, well, everything.
No, really, just for a second. Think about it. That phone or that cup of coffee, it didn't just magically appear, right? It went on this unbelievable, globe-spanning journey, passing through dozens of hands and processes, all just to end up with you. That's the journey we're going to map out right now.
So what do we call this whole invisible process? Well, the official term is supply chain management, or SCM for short. And really, it's just the master plan for managing the flow of everything, the goods, the info, and the money from the very, very beginning as raw materials all the way to the finished product. So let's start where it all begins.
Every great journey has a starting line. For any product, that first step is all about getting from raw, basic materials to a point where you're ready to actually make something. And it doesn't start in a factory. It starts with an idea, and then a shopping list.
You know, before you can build a single thing, you have to figure out what you need and where on earth you're going to get it. That's the world of sourcing and procurement. Think of sourcing as the big picture strategy, finding the perfect long-term partners. Procurement is more tactical. It's the actual act of buying all the stuff from those partners.
And this isn't as simple as just running to the store. The procurement process is this really careful three-step dance. First, you've got to identify and pick the absolute best suppliers. Then comes the really critical part, negotiating contracts to lock in prices, quality, and all the terms. And only then, in step 3, do you finally get the goods.
Which brings us to our first major players in this story, the suppliers. And look, these aren't just vendors. They are the bedrock, the foundation of the whole thing. They're the ones providing the raw materials, making sure the quality is consistent, and getting it all where it needs to go, when it needs to be there. I mean, without a reliable supplier, the entire chain just snaps before it even starts.
All right, so we've got our raw materials. Now what? Well, now we have to actually turn them into something. And that brings us to part 2, the world of making, moving, and storing the product.
This is where the real magic happens. All thanks to the manufacturers. They take all those raw materials from the suppliers, and through some seriously carefully planned processes, they transform them into the products we know. Their entire world is about efficiency, rock-solid quality control, and trying to predict customer demand so they make just the right amount.
So once you've made a product, this massive question pops up. How many of these things should you keep lying around? If you make way too much, you're just burning cash on storage. But if you make too little, you run out, and your customers are not going to be happy. It is a super delicate balancing act, and it's the absolute core challenge of what we call inventory management.
And there are basically 2 big philosophies here. On one side, you have just-in-time, or JIT. This is a hyper-efficient model where goods arrive exactly when you need them, not a moment sooner. It keeps storage costs way down, but man, is it risky if there's a delay. Just think about what happened when the pandemic hit and a single factory shutdown caused massive shortages everywhere. Then on the other side, you have the safety stock approach, basically keeping a buffer of extra stuff on hand. It's much safer for sure, but it also means a lot more of your money is just sitting on a shelf.
Okay, so we've got a finished product, and we've got a plan for how much of it to keep in stock. Now it's time for the final leg of the trip, getting that product into the hands of the people who actually want to buy it. Now, let's talk about the logistical masterminds of this whole operation. The distributors. These guys are the crucial bridge between the factory that makes the product and the store that sells it. They're the ones handling the insane web of trucks, ships, planes, and warehouses, all to make sure the right amount of product is in the right place at exactly the right time.
And that brings us to the face we all recognize in the chain, the retailer. Could be a physical store, could be a website, doesn't matter. This is the last link, and retailers are experts at one thing, figuring out what you, the consumer, actually want. They pick the products, manage the shelves, and handle all the customer service.
So this whole final leg, from some massive warehouse to a local store shelf or even right to your doorstep, that's what people call the final mile. And it's the part of the supply chain that we, as customers, actually see and feel. Getting this part right is absolutely everything for a good experience.
So we've followed the physical path of a product, right? But underneath all of that movement, there is this whole other layer of deep strategic thinking that makes it all work. So let's zoom out for a second and look at the brains behind the brawn.
And this is a really key point. Modern supply chain management is so much more than just moving boxes from point A to point B.
It's actually a super powerful tool that companies use to hit their biggest business goals. Seriously, how a company runs its supply chain can be the difference between winning and losing in the market.
And what's so cool here is how clearly you can connect the dots. You want your company to be the low-cost leader? Okay, then your supply chain strategy has to be about lean manufacturing and smart sourcing. You want to be famous for incredible customer service? Well, your supply chain better be built for on-time delivery and perfect quality. You see? For every big business goal, there's a specific supply chain strategy that makes it possible.
And you know, this strategy isn't something you just set and forget. It's constantly changing, constantly being pushed and pulled by all these powerful forces. I mean, today, it's not just about being cheap. You've got customers demanding more sustainable products. You've got new technologies changing what's possible. The market is always shifting. A truly great supply chain has to juggle all of these things at once.
So to handle all this complexity, a lot of companies use a kind of standardized playbook called the SCORE model. It just breaks the whole thing down into 5 key stages: plan, source, make, deliver, and return. Yep, handling returns is a huge part of it too. It's a way for them to measure how they're doing, find the weak spots, and just get better link by link.
So when you really step back and look at the whole picture, you see it. That phone in your hand is not just a gadget. It's the end result of this gigantic, interconnected chain of thousands and thousands of deliberate, strategic decisions, all designed to bring one idea to life and get it into your hands.
Which kind of leaves us with one final big question. As consumers, our demands just keep growing. We want things faster than ever, we want them cheaper than ever, but now we also want them to be greener and more ethically made. So you have to wonder, how are these invisible journeys going to adapt? What will the supply chain of the future even look like to meet the challenges of tomorrow?